Hello everyone, and welcome to this Let's Play series of Myst 3 Exile, a game that was released in 2001. Since this is the third game of the well-known Myst series, here are a few relevant facts you might want to know before we get started. The Myst series revolves around an underground society known as the Dunny, and by underground I mean literally under the earth in caves. They discovered a way of traveling to different worlds, called ages, through books they write using their own special language, paper, and ink. However, as described in one of the Myst novels, a disaster befalls this civilization and it's ultimately destroyed. There are a few survivors though, and a couple generations down the line is the character Atris. Atris is a master of the art and has written hundreds of ages throughout his life, although tragically most of these writings are destroyed as well. And at some point, Atris goes through the Dunny caves and gathers the other survivors. He formulates a plan to restore the original civilization, though as we'll see in the intro, he changes his mind about that. Now the character that we play doesn't have a name, but is often referred to in Myst folklore as the Stranger. We'll be playing from a first-person view, so the Stranger isn't given a distinct face or voice. The Stranger first meets Atris near the end of the original Myst, and assists Atris in each of the first two games. And now the Stranger has returned for some reason, probably just to say hi. So now that that's out of the way, let's get started!
I realized as our group linked back to Dunny that we should not restore the city as we had planned. The once magnificent buildings lay in ruin, a testament to the hatred that had consumed them. Too many people had fallen victim to that hate, to the prejudice and greed from which it sprang. Gazing out across the cavern, I decided to write another age, one that would help the Dunny survivors begin again, free from the tragedies of their past. So with my wife, Catherine, supporting me, I put aside that past to write a future. More than a year has gone by since I finished writing Relishon. I have a new daughter, who I hope will someday link to that age with me. And as I imagine Yisha meeting the Dunny, those brave men and women who are building a new life for themselves, I realize I've been given another chance as well. A chance to learn from my mistakes and leave the past behind me once and for all.
Breathtaking, isn't it?
Yes indeed. Wait, who said that?
We call it Tamana. We moved here after Atris finished writing Relishon. He wanted us to have a new home too. I'm so glad to see you. I told Atris our paths would cross again. He was just going to grab something for your trip to Relishon, so he shouldn't be terribly long. Unless he decides to check over the whole house first, which means he could be hours resetting all his padlocks. But I know he was looking forward to introducing you to the Dunny, so he shouldn't be terribly long. Why don't you wait in his study?
As we're told in the intro, the lady here is Atris' wife, Catherine, and the baby is their daughter, Yisha. Yisha is significant later on in the series, but for now her role is just to fill diapers. But Catherine was the damsel in distress that we rescued in the previous game, Riven, and if you've played Riven, this reunion might seem a little strange to you. After all, we're just some ordinary human being that found Myst by accident, and at the end of Riven we were sent back to the place where we came from, while Atris and Catherine stayed behind. Well, here's the deal. Tamana is not a separate age. It's actually somewhere in New Mexico, and the entrance to the Dunny Caves? It's around here somewhere, probably right around one of these hills. So, while it's kind of remarkable that Riven is exactly opposite the Starfisher from New Mexico, it's not unreasonable that Atris and the stranger would run into each other again eventually, especially since Exile takes place about 10 years after Riven, so they've had plenty of time for that to happen. Now, switching gears here, a quick note about the gameplay. This might look like a 3D game because I can look any direction I want, but it's not. It's pre-rendered 3D, which is a style a lot of adventure games used around the turn of the century. It's kind of a hybrid between the old and new, because I can look around all 360 degrees, but it still retains the movement of old games like Myst and Riven, where you can only stand in certain places. So in a way, we're really looking through the center of a bunch of circular screenshots. Spherical screenshots.
You know, this trip is exactly what Atris needs right now. I haven't been able to get him out of the house for months, ever since he found his journals out of place. But seeing how well the Dunny have settled in on Relishan should help him to finally relax.
Oh, another note about the gameplay. You can see right in the center of the screen is a faded pointer hand. That's because I'm in panning mode. What I can do is, if I want to examine something in particular, I can right-click and that'll free up the mouse so I can examine whatever interests me more closely. And then if the game doesn't want me to interact with it, it'll make this air puff sound. Ew, don't do that. That's for the baby. Besides, she's married, and probably like 40. Actually, come to think of it, she's probably well older than that. Ugh.
I'm sorry, the other door.
I do as I please, lady. Fine. That's a little weird. Well, here's Atris' study. I like the interior design in here. Oh, check it out. There's the desk Atris used in the intro. Now this book should be familiar to some of you. This symbol right here represents Riven, the 5th age of Gen. This is kind of a spoiler, but at the end of the game, the age falls apart, so that's why the panel's all splotchy. And it doesn't work. Which is probably a good thing. Probably shouldn't mess around in the medicine cabinet, but what's here? Oh, this looks like that special paper and ink that I was talking about earlier. And this, I don't know what this is at all. And I've never met these two people in my life. No, you really can't take everything I say seriously. Oh, but I do know who these people are. These bad boys are Atris' sons. On the left is Cirrus, and on the right is Achenar. Now, if you haven't played Myst, and you don't want the entire game spoiled, then I suggest you leave right now. Because the big secret of Myst is the main premise for Exile. Alright, you've been warned, so here it is. Cirrus and Achenar are both bad guys. They're the two men responsible for destroying most of the Ages of Myst that Atris wrote. And they were devious little stinkers too. They would go to an age and thoroughly exploit the populace. You know, wealth and plunder, mindless torture, you name it. Then they would burn the book linking to that age and go on to the next one. Pretty messed up, but at least it's good to know these guys have been put behind bars. Well, Myst style, they were put in prison books. And this is a magnifying glass, so Atris can examine his fingernail clippings. Maybe. And this is a letter from Atris to a guy named Taman, or Taman, or something. He's one of the Dunny guildmasters that survived the fall, and now he's helping Atris get everyone settled on Relishan. Timon, thank you for responding so quickly to my request for Nara padlocks. As you know, security in Tamana has become an important issue of late. Perhaps I am overreacting, as Catherine suggests, but the idea that someone may have been sneaking into my study, reading all of my journals, disturbs me. After what happened to my library on Myst, after my own sons, Cirrus and Akinar, destroyed so many of my books, I've come to realize how delicate the link is to my worlds. I've never been able to repair those burned books, to link to each age and find out if the inhabitants survived. The padlocks won't change that situation, but they should ease my fear of trespassers considerably. Sincerely, Atris. So why hasn't he sent this yet? Is he out of stamps?